Welcome back to Travel Again Insights, a weekly look at what matters most to our amazing industry. Ed, another week.
Another week, Mike. It's good to see you. And this week we get to kick off with some pretty good news here in the U.S.
Yeah, I mean, it's always good to kind of step back and get a little bit of perspective about, what's happening in the bigger picture. Certainly here in the U.S., it's great to see the case numbers dropping, certainly the fatality rate dropping, and hospitalizations dropping across the board. So that's a good news. And clearly the impact of the vaccines being in place and protocol hopefully being followed. And now, we continue on our path that we've talked about of getting to the beginning of the recovery, meaning we get to a more stable environment and one at which we can start to rebuild. And we're not there yet, but the indicators are that, everything is working. And if we can keep this going and keep the vaccination implementation, tracking, and accelerating, it'd be great to be in a place that we need to get to. Now, having said that, as we know, the other challenge is, we want to make sure we continue to be safe, stay safe, travel safe, et cetera, because we don't need any setbacks either. And so really important that we stay the course. As I talked about with my dad, it's like, hey, we've made it this far, we're a year in. It's like, man, just no reason to stop now. We're months away from getting to even a better place. Let's keep that in mind. So hopefully everybody will and stay safe and keep on the protocol.
Yep. Thanks for the reminder, Mike. That's one of the reasons the curve is coming down, is because we're doing a better job of following those protocols. Speaking of success, let's turn to Israel, where vaccinations have picked up tremendously, and they are starting to show real results. So let's talk about Israel for just a moment.
Yeah, so I think again we need to keep our eye on these case, kind of almost case studies of where you've got smaller populations, groups, and where different things are being implemented and almost tested, but there's a lot we can learn from, right? So 43% of the population has received at least one dose of the vaccine. They hope to have 50% of the population vaccinated very shortly. But they've instituted this Green Pass, which is basically basically a digital health platform verification. One of the things we've been talking about, where you have to show that you're basically green to go into gyms or go into those potentially more crowded places, environments where you would potentially have more risk, right? And so be interesting to watch. These are really important. What protocol is being used, what standards are being used for for keeping personal data safe. But all those things play into these learnings, these best practices. We have to watch and then see how we can deploy on a broad scale globally.
Yep, it's an interesting model. Has a lot of open questions around it, but the good news is the vaccinations appear to be working, and that's a fantastic model for us to be following. So that's good news to see.
And a credit to leaders who are taking going out and being first and doing these things to help us, really not only help their citizens, their population, but I guess help and in fact helping all of us learn from these cases. So.
Yep. Okay. The next article is an interesting one out of the New York Times. A technology executive apologized after dozens of event attendees contracted COVID-19. But this is an unusual use case, and I think it's important to understand the context of it, Mike.
Well, a couple of things. One is the good news is that it looks like the 20 people that were infected have all come away with no serious cases and are all recovered or will recover. So that's the good news. So let's start there. But secondly, I think the thing as you dig into this and read the article and dig deeper into the event itself, I mean, the important thing to remember here is that the reason why that happened is because they didn't follow the protocol. They basically, once people went through the testing protocol, but then stop wearing masks, stop social distancing, stop doing the things that you know you need to do. And what everyone has to remember, and what we, again, as an industry, we're well aware, but I think to the larger population, it's like, it doesn't make an event bad or procedures bad if they're not followed. And you have to still social distance. You still have to wear your mask. I mean, the testing is not a replacement for vaccination. It's not a replacement for, anything. Testing is just that. It's just ways of reducing risk, trying to identify or isolate someone who unknowingly might be carrying, COVID. But one does not replace the other. So again, I think that's really the lesson that I would take away from this. And the other thing is that, it's something that as Travel Again, we're really focused on it, and we really are working and will continue to work to try to draw in the whole global travel industry into this. We have to message better to the media, because the way even that was represented, it was okay. But what was missing was if you glanced at the headline and you read the first part, your conclusion might be, oh, I should go to an event. And that's not the right conclusion. They failed in terms of how they implement or the way that they enforce the procedures. Had they been followed, it could have been a perfectly safe event, just like many that are starting to happen all over the world. So again, we need to get that story told, not necessarily this story told, but again, one to learn from.
Okay. Our last story of the week is a little more lighthearted, but actually is really interesting in that those who are starting to get vaccinated are starting to travel. So let's talk about that.
Well, I think, again, a perfect example or kind of, let's say, validation of what we've been saying and known all along is that we don't have a problem with people wanting to travel. And at the first opportunity of being vaccinated, of feeling safer, certainly all the hard work that the travel industry has put in so far into making the interior aircraft safe and hotels safe and resorts and doing everything possible to create a safe travel environment. People want to travel. The issue is, do they have the confidence? And clearly, people are also stir crazy, looking to get out and go on a getaway and get a little break and see the sun or do whatever they need to do. That's not in question. But a couple takeaways. One is, that doesn't mean we have to let up or take our eye off the ball about the protocol we're following, about being safe and enforcing safe travel procedures. But it is, it feels nice to see that, the reaction we know we'll get. People do want to get back out there, and they will. But again, we have a lot of work to do. And the cautionary part of it is, of course, we just want to make sure that we ramp this back up smartly and intelligently too, so that we're ready, so we don't have setbacks, so we can get to a place where we're past that tipping point in terms of the distribution of vaccines, that people don't get drawn into a false sense of security that suddenly everything's okay and that we're back to where we were in 2019, because we can't do that. We have to stay very cogent and focused on making this good for the long term. But again, nice to see, and a little bit of warmth and levity in all this is nice, and to see some folks that honestly probably were again like all of us wanting to get out, but great to see some parents and moms and dads and grandparents out there starting to relive their life again. So that's great.
Very nice to see. That's it for this week, Mike. Those are the major news stories that affect Travel Again. We'll be back at it next week. Anything else for us? Nope.
But let's just all stay the course. We're starting to see some little bit of light at the end of the tunnel, hopefully, and some hopefully with each week we'll have more progress and more news, more good news.
All right. I'll see you again next week, Mike.
See ya.